Hi, welcome to the Ubuntu podcast series, and it's a great honor that I'm able to interview one of the co-founders of Ubuntu, Damien, who I've had the pleasure of knowing on and off quite a number of years, being based in Bali, right? We both lived in Canggu and Ubud together, and we're meeting Damien on a very auspicious occasion. It is his 50th birthday.
My God, feels weird actually. Part of me doesn't compute yet.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's
the silver lining club, no? It's a better club, yeah?
It is a silver lining club. And also a good time for reflection.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, 50 years. How long have you been involved with yoga for?
I started meditation, I was 16, so about 35 years.
Okay,
and then Ashtanga, yeah, I've been teaching for 24, so I've done yoga for more than half of my life, basically.
Wow. So did you say meditation since you were 16?
Yeah.
So how did you come upon meditation?
Well, in some level, it was quite tragic, as at the time I was really struggling as a teenager, and eventually, through one member of my family, my uncle, who's from the US, introduced me to meditation, and I really grabbed onto that literally as a matter of life and death, as a tool to feel better and to support myself and to create a little haven of peace within. And so it was really helpful, and eventually, the same uncle, about 10 years later, when I was about 24, started Ashtanga, and so introduced me to Ashtanga, and that's how I got into it. So on some level, it was quite tragic that it was, difficulty and pain and challenge, but on some level, this feeling or touching that rock bottom really helped me feel and see the value of yoga, and as a first-hand proof in the pudding that it really works for me, that it really helps me in so many ways during my life.
Yeah, beautiful, man. And it's like to have that family connection through that modality of meditation, and then to find Ashtanga too as the first step into yoga.
Yeah,
is a really good place to start, right?
Yeah,
definitely. Like having the practice of meditation, which yoga is essentially designed to get to, where you did it in reverse.
Yeah, almost backwards.
Yeah. How was it for your body? Did you come from a sporting background before your Ashtanga, and did it help you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a sporting background. I was always into sports and athletics. At the time, I think I was doing triathlon, so training a lot, and actually maybe training too much, and because of this I had a stress fracture and broke my knee. And a few years later, when I started yoga, it was really, really helpful. And, because of the knee injuries, I was more and more limited, and I was quite young, yeah? And on the competitive or sport level, the only thing I could do was swimming after the knee injury. And yoga really helped rebalance the tension and the joints and the muscles. And so it was really a boon, really. And so for me, I guess from the start, yoga had a healing quality, and even Ashtanga, a lot of people kind of hurt themselves pushing too hard in Ashtanga, but for me, I always saw it as a form of yoga therapy. It was very helpful, and it's in the way of helping rebalance the different corners of the body.
Okay, yeah, and like myself, my first journey into yoga was Ashtanga after doing triathlons, but I was 40, so
yeah,
I kind of needed something to, I guess,
balance out the impact.
Balance out the kind of very high vibe kind of sports I was doing.
Yeah,
and,
makes sense.
Just saw yoga as that, yeah. So, I understand that Damien has a big sporting background, and I know you do like surfing and kite surfing now, and you probably had multiple injuries through the years. Has that inspired your passion for learning about anatomy, and how does anatomy and healing and yoga fit together in you as a whole, with what you bring to your trainings?
I mean, I guess on one side, yes, always being very active and quite intense, definitely dealing with injuries and stuff like this over time. And I always found yoga very helpful to navigate those injuries. And I think maybe after 10 years of doing yoga, I was going out with a woman who was doing massage therapy, and it inspired me to train as a massage therapist. And I went to massage and bodywork school for a few years.
Oh, wow.
Actually. And from the very beginning, I saw that it was very helpful as a complement to yoga to be able to feel through the different tension pattern using my hands and understand how the body works basically inside and out. So from the combination of using yoga to heal my own injuries and also to help people basically navigate their own challenges, whether it's structural or scoliosis or through traumas, injuries, how can yoga be helpful as a tool of almost physical therapy?
And very, like a very powerful synergy, right? Ashtanga, where you're very hands-on with your students, like really delicately, manipulating or pushing their boundaries through their own muscle practice.
Yeah.
I feel that it's almost a necessity for a Ashtanga teacher to know, to embody functional movement that way. Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree.
And also, is that something, I know that you've done teacher trainings, is that something that you put through your trainings?
So I guess for me, the main key is Ashtanga is particularly hands-on, and my sense is yoga should help people feel better and heal. And so I think there's a double responsibility on the level of an Ashtanga teacher to be very aware and careful with the adjustments, and as you say, approach them very delicately and very more on the side of lightly, as a way of informing the body rather than trying to push or force the body into a shape that it may or may not be ready for. So for me, I like to use my hands more as reinforcement of the cues that I give verbally to help the people understand which position would actually feel better, and support them on their journey so that eventually they can get there on their own. But I think it's important over the years, as I've been teaching Ashtanga for like 24 years now, I think it's more and more important to keep the adjustments more on the side of lighter rather than stronger. Very light, gentle, and that it's sort of like informing the student of how they want to move and where they want to go with their body. But it's really, I'm using my hands to talk to their minds.
Okay. You're using your hands to talk to their minds.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much does the mind, right, we talked about before psychology, and you have a background in psychology, maybe you can just talk about that and how you've used that tool into this embodiment practice of yoga, or Ashtanga yoga.
It's a good question. I mean, originally yoga is actually a science of control or dealing with the mind, and it's really in the modern days now that the focus of yoga is shifted to the body. But I think it's important to remember that original intention, and so it's very much, at least for me, that I am using the body to access the mind. And so I can look at how somebody shows up on their yoga mat, and it's going to give me a lot of information of what's going on in their head, what's going on in their mind. Are they aware? Are they conscious? Are they doing things mechanically, automatically? Are doing them with intention? Are they taking the time to feel into what they're doing? Or are they still focused on an agenda that they're trying trying to achieve. Yeah? So just by observing, you can have a lot of information about somebody's mind and personality and character, and gradually is using the practice, using the body to refine that. Yeah? But again, we use the body to work with someone's mind.
And I guess that also when you are working with a lot of regular students, you know, like when you're in this Ubuntu space and the community that comes regularly, and then they don't come and they come again, it's almost like this synergy where you're like, you know, they trust you, you trust your own knowledge of how far you can go with someone based on how they show up that day, right? Like they might be in a different frame of mind.
Yeah.
And it might be a whole different...
Or even body space.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess for me, more and more, I come from a traditional Ashtanga background where I studied with Patabi Joyce and Sharat, went many times in India, in Mysore. But more and more, and through my understanding of the body and also the bigger picture of yoga, I approach Ashtanga from a more functional, or what I call sustainable perspective, which means that I'm gonna maybe sometime derail the Ashtanga practice to support somebody on their journey if I find it useful, or adapt the posture to really suit their structure or their need at a particular time.
Right.
So I think it's important as a teacher, I don't have an agenda. When I come to a student, my job is first and foremost to support them. Yeah? And I'm not trying to fit them into a shape, put them into a pose. We explore together and see what's possible from a place of softness, from a place of kindness, and so that they can gradually play with their edges, play with their limits, but not necessarily have to push through them, or it's just exploring the territory.
So Damien, I understand this is your second studio in Bali as co-owner, co-founder. Over a decade in Bali, or probably longer. So how do you see what you've created has changed from Samadhi, from the studio before? How has that offering changed over the time of Bali, how that's changed, and also yourself changed as a human, and what kind of philosophy are you bringing to this community?
Yeah, so it's the nice thing about doing things over, is you can fix and improve and redirect maybe the course. And so Samadhi was a great adventure. We were 4 partners, and I think it was a little bit the luck of the draw where we caught this wave of expansion that was happening in Bali, especially around Canggu at the time. And it was an amazing ride. And eventually it became a little bit too big. And for me, it felt it was using yoga as a way to make money and to do business. So the bottom line ended up being business. And for me, I guess as a yoga teacher and seeker, or I really like the opposite perspective. It's more like I'm trying to use the business to spread yoga and to see how we could run a business, a commercial entity like this with the principles that yoga taught me. Yeah? So the common denominator here is really trying to stay close to the roots and the values that yoga taught us. And over time, I think, in the beginning, when we're young, is about how much can I get out of life, and how, my success and my story. And eventually, if we commit and become good enough at what we do get that success. And what's nice, eventually comes a time where it's more about giving back and sharing. Yeah. And so for me, that was kind of what Ubuntu is about. The word really means community, together. And I really, really appreciate, especially as living in Bali and appreciating the Balinese people, the Balinese culture, and even Indonesia and Indonesians as a broader framework, how this space Ubuntu is really about sharing and mingling and coming together of these different, ultimately, worldview, the Western worldview, the Eastern mindset, and how we can help each other and share together. And so that's the story, the main story behind Ubuntu, and that's what's happening. And it's really, really nice to see and really heartwarming.
Mm. So, and do you see more of a growth in, people coming to community? I notice on your schedule, you've got a lot more different offerings of classes, and workshops and events. So that's been a trend all over Bali, and I think maybe in the rest of the world. Studios offering sound healings and art workshops, and so that's always been something Ubuntu's been very focused on, not just the yoga, right?
Yeah. I mean, the idea is really sharing what I would call yogic lifestyle, which is a way of inquiring, exploring, discovering, and the way of taking care of one's physical health, but also emotional, mental, spiritual, creativity. So all these dynamics can play really well in complementary way together. And so we like this. Ideally, the kind of schedule that I would like to have here in Ubuntu is maybe more traditional yoga in the morning, and then some movement or dancing or something like this in the afternoon, and maybe finishing the day with some meditation or really sound healing or like introspective work. So that's kind of what we're working toward. But yeah, we like the idea of offering, once you understand what yoga is about, anything could become yoga. Yeah, it's not about stretching on a yoga mat, really. It's about meeting oneself, and using the challenges. It can be through surfing, it can be through learning a musical instrument, it could be through learning to farm, and meeting oneself in that space and reflecting on, how is what is going on right now a feedback, a mirror of what is going on within me, and how I can use that mirror to refine, almost polish, and improve over time and become a little bit more skilled. One of the classic definitions of yoga is skill in action, which could be applied to anything.
Is it a tone that's coming through in the teachings as a philosophy? Like when you teach a class, there's always a theme or something that comes through. Is it a theme of self-reflection in a way, right? Yeah. I mean, here in Mysore is kind of like a place for self-practice, and my job is to support people who come here and navigate either the challenges of their body or to help them find a little bit more center and balance. But usually every year I go and teach around Europe, and I do a few workshops, and in these settings I like to do themes, or here we do intensives every year, and I have themes that kind of bring together the physical elements and explorations in anatomy, for example, but also the more philosophical, we study classical texts or what I call internal practices that are the roots of yoga, like meditation or pranayama or chanting mantras, so that the two, it's a little bit like bringing the ancient side of yoga and the modern version of yoga together in some interesting and creative ways. So, yoga is a continual journey of discovery and self-study, right? It seems like you're always studying, studying the waves or, planning the next class. What do you see in the next, say, 10 years where you'd like to go with your life with yoga?
I'm very grateful that yoga has been a the central part of my life for so long, and it's definitely been evolving. And at the beginning, I loved the physicality of Ashtanga and the asanas and moving through the series and all this. And now, I guess I would say the main focus of my practice is actually meditation, and I feel very, very lucky that I found here in Bali a meditation teacher who is sort of like holding a living tradition, that I've been reading in those ancient texts, but it's really quite different to have it live from a person in the flesh. And so it's a pleasure to deepen this journey and to keep learning and to keep evolving. I'm always taking classes, courses lately, Ayurveda or neurosciences, or exploring different fields. From the classic yogic vision, life here is a bit of a school, yeah? And so we're here to learn, and gradually as we integrate the lessons, we become more mature, we become more evolved in our potential, and at some point we graduate, and then we don't really have to come back, yeah? And so we're free from this dimension. So I'm really enjoying the way and enjoying learning. And that's what's amazing, is that, however much I learn, however much I know, there's always so much more. And so it's really inspiring, actually.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your 50th birthday.
Right.
There's a few surprises coming. Yeah, and all the best. Cheers.